All right, so it is a Monday morning, October 1st. I can't believe October is already upon us. And boy, what a rainy one we've had. Rainy fall, anyway, so far. Anyway, it's good to have you here. Let's take a look at our class so you can stop seeing this funny mirrored screen. All right, so what we have here is October 1st through the 6th, flipping your class. And again, we're talking about flipping and having to record those things that we're preparing for the flipped classroom assignment. Hopefully you're on your way to getting this assignment done. Today I'm using OBS Studio to record this presentation, and that's something that you could use for your assignment as well. So the readings for this week: educators evaluate flipped classrooms, and you can take a look at that from Education Week, and then 4 tips for flipped learning from Edutopia. So some nice tips to help you to complete your assignment, and also think about recording any lesson in your class and how to use that. There's a presentation on netiquette. I think this kind of looks forward a little bit as far as content goes, but it helps us to remember how to act online. Netiquette's kind of an older term, I think, now for the way that we act on the internet, right? Etiquette for the internet. And so you'll watch that, and then you'll submit the assignment on the flipped classroom. And remember this assignment. So this is 2 different recordings, 2 different class recordings for students to watch as their homework. Each one's about 10 to 20 minutes in length, and each one uses 2 different tools. Choose 2 tools from among those presented in class to record this lesson. To record these 2 lessons, I should say. That way you get an experience with 2 different tools, not just one. And you'll probably end up, if you were going to really flip your class, I know that you'll probably end up just using one tool all the time, one you can go back to all the time. But it's good to learn about a couple of them so that you understand what are the strengths and weaknesses of each. And then you need to plan 2 lesson plans. So 2 lesson plans, again, we're assuming about 45 minutes in length or 50 minutes in length for a class period. Although you could think about the block schedule that happens in some high schools that it might go a little longer than that. That include all of these different items. The learning objective, briefly describe your learners, lesson title and summary, list of materials and technologies, and then a timeline of activities. And this is going to be the most detailed part of your assignment. You're going to submit a timeline of activities that would be completed in the class period. So again, talk about exactly what the teacher will do. You are probably going to be the teacher in this classroom. What will you do during the class period? What will the students do during the class period? And talk about each step of the class period. Like first, we will get our books out or whatever it is. Next, we will look at problems 3 through 5 from the textbook, and I will have students do this in small groups, and as they are working on this assignment, probably groups of 2 or 3, as they're working on the assignment, I'll be walking around the classroom trying to ensure that they know what they're doing. Those kinds of things are important. And then finally, an assessment plan that indicates how you will determine if students watched last night's recorded lesson or homework. So how are you going to measure students' learning, and how are you going to make sure that they watched the recorded lesson? And so that's what you're looking for to submit this week by the end of the week, so that I can grade that, the flipped classroom. As you submit those, I'll go ahead and grade them. So even if you submitted one today, I'll go ahead and grade it today just so that I keep track and keep up on them as much as I can anyway. And then there's a discussion called Flippin' Awesome, and there's Kip there from Napoleon Dynamite on the computer. It says, now that you are creating or learning to create a flipped lesson, what is the connection to your current work or position? Would creating a flipped classroom be useful for your current or future work, and why or why not? So talk about this. Would this actually work in your career or in your experience now? Why or why not? And I think one of the big elephants in the room that I haven't discussed so much lately is this idea of a flipped classroom. But I think the part of the idea of the flipped classroom where students may not be able to access the internet when they're at home. And there are still students, of course, in the world that don't have internet access, that may not be able to watch your videos at home. So that's kind of an issue that is hard to get around with the flipped classroom approach, because, again, they have to be able to access the internet to watch those videos. Let's say that they have a couple of teachers, or maybe all of their teachers, flipping classrooms. Then that's a lot of watching videos each night in order to make this work. Now, a flipped video is shorter than an actual presentation to a class. And the reason why is because you can usually condense things down. You might be able to go a little faster, and there aren't any questions interrupting your presentation. So generally, you'll find that if 1 hour, let's say, classroom would be shortened down to less than 30 minutes. But still, if you have 4 to 7 classes each day, that's a lot of time. Let's say 7 times 30 minutes. You're talking about 2, 4, almost 4 hours of watching flipped lessons every night. So it's kind of hard to justify in that way. But let's say the videos are shorter, maybe 10, 15 minutes, maybe it's more manageable in that way. But they have found, and as you've read, there's been some pretty good quality learning outcomes happening from this flipped approach if students actually do take the time to watch the videos. But back to this idea, no internet at home. If a student has no internet at home, then they can kind of be in trouble as far as this flipped classroom idea goes. So here's how a couple of schools decided to solve this problem in different ways. They had literacy summits. Let's see, they opened up churches in the local community and outfitted them with Wi-Fi and asked them to open up during the evenings for a few hours each week and make sure the students could go and bring their laptop and access those things that they needed to access. They had the library hours that the schools open for the evening time. They had after-school times for after-school programs that allow students to come in and use the internet in that way. They actually had a summer food program that brought meals to students, and we have this in Aberdeen as well. And so during the summer food program, and you could think about expanding this to during the school year, there could be some kind of a bus that comes along with the food and delivers Wi-Fi as well. So when students sit down to eat, they can also sit down to work and watch those things. And then other hotspots around the community using things like the local library or the local cafe that may have Wi-Fi enabled. But I think that you can consider the difficulty that it would be for somebody who does not have internet access at home to somehow be able to watch these videos that you've recorded, and then if they don't have the option at home, then they'd have to go somewhere each night to watch them, and that's kind of a lot to ask someone. So that is sort of an elephant in the room as far as this flipped lessons approach goes. And just a couple other technical solutions besides what they have offered. For instance, you could offer the videos also on a thumb drive, so that maybe if a student doesn't have internet access but may have a computer, they could pull it up on their computer and just watch it as a video file. So a more technological solution might present itself as well. But I feel like I haven't discussed that enough, and it reminded me when we had a student talk about that in the discussions last week. So that's important, I think, to remember. Okay, well, I think that's about everything for this new week. So good luck, and get started on that flipped classroom assignment if you haven't yet.